We're just making this up as we go. Do we have enough cord? Here, you take that. Sorry about the cords, guys. Sorry. How are we feeling after Block 1? First, I just want to say we're running a little behind on schedule here, so we're going to keep this a little quick. But I do want to say that one of the reasons why I wanted to start a film festival like this is because there's so few narratives in film centered around cancer. There's a lot of like, you get diagnosed, you die. And like, that's great, and there's definitely room for those stories, but there's so much more color and detail to living a life and experiencing your way through cancer, as you have seen in our first block of films. And I was just tired of seeing a lot of victim shit in film and television when it came to the conversation around cancer. And so I think these lovely filmmakers up here have done a really, really great job of adding a lot more color to what we see in media as a monolith. And so, round of applause for these And I'm just going to kind of ask a bunch of questions, and if you're holding a mic and you want to answer it, great. If you want to pass it down to someone, if you want to raise your hand for it, and this is going to kind of be informal, and I'm just going to direct it at whoever wants to answer it. So feel free to be assertive and step in. One of the things that I wanted to mention firstly is that I think one or two of the filmmakers up here, you've not seen their film yet. I think. Yes. We have not seen his film yet. It's coming. And so I just want to add that as a little thing in your brain to keep in mind as we answer these questions. So I think I'm going to start out with this question, and again, feel free to answer. People hear like cancer films or cancer in TV shows, and mostly I feel like their reaction is that it's sad or scary or depressing. And so I wanted to ask each of you, or whomever feels like answering, what is the feeling that you want associated with your film?
I guess I'll start. So when we made Back to Normal, one of the things that I really enjoyed as far as the message was that of hope and just like being able to push forward. Past such like a big arduous point in someone's life, and it was a film that I was really happy to be a part of, to be able to, add my energy towards. And I hope that when people watched it, they were able to get that sense of, this is something that I can defeat, this is something that I can, see in the rearview mirror.
I think it's pretty simple that when anyone survives, in quotes, cancer, you're surviving for a second or a minute or an hour or a day or a week or a year or a month or maybe forever. You don't know. You never know. No one ever knows. So all you can do is take that time, that minute, that second, that hour, week, month, and celebrate it. And live life like you've never lived life before, because you don't know what the end game's going to be. Not that any of us know what the end game's going to be, but that's it. You've got to celebrate and say, for right now, fuck cancer, I beat it, and I'm going to celebrate.
Hi, I'm Heather. I'm the writer and director of Great White Lies. I wanted to say that my film, if I wanted there to be a takeaway from it, that there is a lot of growth and change when it comes to going through cancer treatment and what comes after. And I think it's just important to especially recognize the after and going back to your life afterwards and just appreciate the change and just keep moving forward.
Anyone else want to take that up?
Hi, I am Charla Fonseca, and I am the producer of Palate Cleanser. The main theme throughout the short film is healthcare, and our entire team has been affected by cancer in many different ways, and so it was just very important for us to get across that it's a human right to have access to healthcare. And so if we got to do that in kind of like a dark, funny, awkward meal at a corporate job interview, because that's where healthcare is usually tied to, is your job, which is also something we don't think is fair or true. Like, it shouldn't be that. Like, we should all have access to healthcare. I mean, it's like basic necessity, right? So anyways, go healthcare.
I will say too, the palate cleanser, one of the things that I took away from it was what people are willing to do to get healthcare, and we've kind of backed ourselves into this corner of like, what are you willing to do in order to save your own life or save the life of someone you care about? Which was, when I watched it the first time, I was like, wow. Yes.
Yeah, you know, it really like, it really tests you to see like what you are willing to do, because I think everybody in this country has experienced like the desperate need to have access to medical care, point blank period, mental health, physical health, all of it. So thank you, I appreciate that.
And one of the things I will say with Blood Cancer United and other cancer organizations is a lot of times the donations that they receive, the number one thing that they get asked for is financial assistance. So by donating to organizations like this, a lot of times you are able to help someone who is backed into a corner, who is in a bad situation, to get out in some way or another. Lauren, do you want to hop on this one at all? Sure. More than welcome to.
Hi, I'm Lauren. I'm the writer and actor in Golden Afternoon. And I just wanted to say, I know the correlation to cancer might not be as obvious as some of the other films, but our story is based on true events, where I was asked to be a PA for an event in Central Park, and it turned out to be this big celebration of life for a young woman who passed away of brain cancer. She had young kids. It was extremely tragic circumstances, and I had no connection to the family at all, and I couldn't believe how moved I was by the whole day and hearing all of her loved ones talk about her, and this dance that unfolded before me, which really happened. It was I'm Every Woman in real life. So yeah, I guess the takeaway feeling, I hope, is a little bit of joy and uplifting, because I still feel touched and moved by her story, and that's why I wanted to make the movie, to express that feeling and hopefully give it to others.
Kevin, you're turning this one down.
My film's like not like it's very like sad. No, I think there's a lot of themes in that, but I think one of the biggest things is like there is hope on the other side of I guess swallowing the aspects of like the pain and things that have gone back, and now of course obviously there was a lot more that happened kind of not directly correlated with cancer, but other circumstances that have affected Nathaniel not being there for his wife, who did have cancer whenever he did go into prison, and having to face that now, which, you know, as he is now talking to Teresa and seeing that like, oh, this event has affected both of us through this decision. Now how do we move forward? And the truth is that like, you know, it's not easy, but we can, because he's dealing with it, she's dealing with it in her way. Now it's all come to a head, and now it's like, well, what do we do? And it's like, we can navigate this. You know, he says, you know, vengeance is toxic, you know, rock you to your core. So, you know, let it go. But he's also talking to himself in that moment as well too. So, yeah.
And Kevin is also a cancer survivor as well. So, for Kevin and other filmmakers up here who have actually personally themselves had cancer, I did want to ask how the experience of filming something about cancer felt. Like, was it an emotional experience? Was it cathartic? Was it powerful? How did you feel about the process of creating the piece around something that you've experienced so closely? or even just like with Kevin, like the mention of it and an experience like having to do with it, was there anything that happened on set that you were like, holy shit, this is triggering, help?
Well, I'll speak to this. It's actually it's like quite surreal. So like when I first filmed this, I did not have cancer, at least that I knew of. And so, however, there were people in my life that have been affected by it. You know, i.e. my grandmother, who you see at the end of the film. So it's very interesting because, like, you know, doing the film then and like having a perspective of like how loss really does affect, you know, me as a filmmaker, even me and my art, and now even watching it now, it's very weird, you know, because this is very fresh for me. Like, it's almost like a year to the date that I literally got out the hospital. So, you know, it's a whirlwind of you know, kind of a life that I've lived within this last year. So even watching it now, I'm just like, oh, I'm like, this is something I wrote, directed, and even was in, and I'm like, I'm watching this very differently now. This is a kind of weird way to watch this, but I think that's also the beauty of cinema, is like how you can watch different things at different stages of your life. You know, like Interstellar is like one of my favorite movies, and I'm like, I know if I ever have a child, I know, like, after I watch that film, after having a kid, like, you know, I've watched it 100 times, but I'm sure that will affect me differently. So I know this go around watching this, that's something I did. It was kind of crazy to see that, like, wow, this is interesting. You know, this is about like how do other people operate in that space, you know, that have helped me through, like what would have happened if I did not make it, and so on. So yeah, I think that is the question, hopefully.
Sure. Great. Anyone else? Heather.
So I was 19 when I was diagnosed with AML, which is acute myeloid leukemia, and I feel like when I was making the film, I was definitely reliving a lot of what I'd been through, but it was processing and going through that really helped me heal. So I feel like going through the filmmaking process was very healing and cathartic, and it felt good to also give back and make something that other people could hopefully relate to and help others that are going through something similar.
Great. Because of time, I'm going to open up the floor to any questions you might want to ask one of our filmmakers up here. And actually, just because we do have a filmmaker up here whose film you have not seen yet, Marcus, I do want to ask you just to like tell us what your film is and give us a brief synopsis of what it is, so that we have some context for him for when we do get to it.
I thought it was good news that we're the closing film, but that depends if everyone stays awake, so we'll see what
I did that for a reason, and you'll see if you're still awake and here at the end, we'll find a way.
The film is called Second Winds, and the film is about 3 patients with CLL, which is a subset of leukemia, who were all diagnosed and had pretty dire prognosis, yet they sought treatment and they went into remission and were, you know, quote unquote cured, and were living their best lives. And we wanted to show 3 people who were really just exemplifying that emotion and that feeling. So it took a year and a half of casting. We do films funded by brands. So this was funded by AbbVie, who of course makes a CLL prescription. So all these people had to have used the drug, had to survive, and had to be living their best lives. And we wanted a woman, we wanted diversity. So it was a long journey to do this, to get this. But these 3 strangers who didn't know each other ever came together to film this, about how they, you know, enabled with their families, their loved ones, their work, and all their passions. They were skiers, they're mountaineers, and just went, we survived, we made it, and man, we're gonna live our lives like we never have before. And it was just really to show that celebration, and to show people that, you know, there is another step, there is another way to go. And we're screening at 5 film festivals. We premiered in LA at the London with a couple of people from Modern Family in attendance, and we're partnered with the LA Times, and it's really gotten such with people going, wow, there is a next, there is a tomorrow, there is a day, and we can raise our hands in the air. So it's the last film. I hope you can stay for it.
It's worth it, I promise. Opening to the audience, is there anything that anyone would like to ask any of our filmmakers? No one wants to know anything.
It's time to ask anything you want. Literally anything.
I just wanted to comment, one of my favorite moments is when you said the safety is on. I wondered where that came from, but it was, I loved it.
I appreciate that. You know, it's funny, when I first screened that, the film, because I wrote it, I'm like, yeah, this is going to be such a pivotal moment, and people are going to realize that, like, man, like, you know, the safety was on, and he could have done anything, but he really cared. It gets a laugh all the time. And when I first saw it, and everyone was laughing, I was like, hey, you're not supposed to laugh, this is serious. But it's such a breath of fresh air in that moment, but it speaks so much volumes to, like, literally just the whole moment that took place. So I appreciate that.
That was my dad asking that question. Hi, Dad. Anybody else have any questions? Yes.
So I wanted to thank you all for this beautiful, can you hear me? I'm sorry. I wanted to thank you all for the beautiful presentations and stories, and I wanted to comment on something that you said, Heather, about making the film was therapeutic for you, but I want to share that watching these films was therapeutic for us, and that I really believe that there's medicine in the telling of your story for you, but for those who get to hear it. So thank you for healing us as well.
And again, that is exactly like the best testimonial we could have asked for. But really why we did this, because a lot of the people who have helped me, the amazing team I have, did this because there really is such a lack of diversity in the kind of stories we see in anything revolving around cancer. It's usually you get it and you go through treatment and then it's over. Congratulations, goodbye. And there's so much more to that, and I wanted to have those therapeutic moments because there are 18 million cancer survivors and counting in the United States alone. And so there's going to be a much larger audience moving forward to tell different kinds of stories, and I think that every single person up here has done such an amazing job doing so. So thank you for that. Anybody else? I'm going to start calling on people. Yes.
I'm curious what you're all working on now and next.
No one's working on anything. Anybody go? Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, something I didn't mention before too, as far as my personal connection to cancer. This is related to your question, Lauren. My mom was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer in 2020. And so when I attended this event in real life, my mom was going through cancer treatments at the time. So it was all the more emotional for me on that day. And then when she did eventually pass, we had a celebration of life. And she knew that we were making this film, so it's a very layered thing for me. And I've gotten a lot of questions of like, oh, are you going to expand and make this a longer project? And I want Golden Afternoon to stay as its own moment in time. But that said, I'm writing a feature that's more directly about cancer and end-of-life care from the experiences that I saw my mom go through and what I went through as a caretaker. So yeah, that's in development.
So since I graduated college, I've been working in writers' rooms out in LA, and currently I'm working on an Amazon Prime show that's coming out this summer, and it's the Legally Blonde prequel called Elle. So I'm really excited for that. And I also am working on writing and hopefully directing more projects in the future.
I'm actually, so acting is my main forte, so I've been quite busy on that front, which has been really good. It's been good to be back on the saddle there. And I am actually working on my next project as well, too. It's not going to be nearly as like heavy. It's going to be a breath of fresh air. It's going to be more of a comedy. And actually we're hopefully getting that funded here soon. We'll be doing that and just enjoying life. as you were saying, like, you know, just really just enjoying the time of, you know, just being here after, you know, a crazy whirlwind of a year last year. I also was diagnosed with AML as well too. So yeah, so I'm just enjoying life now. So I've been traveling and like, you know, enjoying. So yeah, I'm trying to make movies here and there too. Which are expensive, by the way. Movies are expensive to make, but we do it.
That's right. I'm actually very excited to share that Palate Cleanser has now been developed into a feature film. So we've gone through 7 rewrites, 3 script competitions. We've got our proof of concept. We've met with casting directors this week trying to just attach somebody that could, you know, maybe get us some pre-sales. So we're really looking forward to diving into all of these characters' layers and their stories and showing you how Goodwin became Goodwin. I mean, she's like cold-hearted, she doesn't care, she wants to run it, but like how did she get that way, right? She's got her own life of traumas, and same thing with Bart Lewis, like how did he get to that point of desperation? And so the feature film kind of breaks down all of that and then added characters as well, because they all have like their own worlds. And then outside of that, I'm also working on a feature documentary called I Feel Blue, with a colleague of mine who's based here in New York named Dan Grigsby. He is Blackfoot Native American, and the entire story follows how Native people and Black people cultivated and curated blues music, and just kind of how all of those forms of art really tell the true story that deserves to be told. So, yeah.
You're skipping?
I'm a little bit on the boring side. My focus at this time is more so in journalism. I work for my news agency over in DC.
And that's an Emmy for her.
Okay.
I've been doing it a little while. Looking to see if I can get a couple more. You know, 1 for my mom's house, 2 for the shelf. Because 2 always looks better than 1. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But so far, that's been it's been enough things happening in the news lately. That's been, yeah, like I said, that's kind of been my focus. But I'm looking forward to doing more projects. I'm looking forward to do more documentaries. One of my first projects in my career was on Black urban farms. It was in Richmond, Virginia, where I interviewed 6 different farm groups, all making small plots in the middle of Richmond, Virginia. And I'm hoping to do something kind of in that similar vein. I don't know if I'll go back there. I don't know if I'll do it in DC or if I'll find a different location, but that's something that I find very compelling. So, yeah.
Al Roker did a film like that. You gotta check it out.
I'll have to check that out.
It's amazing. Kind of busy. We were a film marketing and distribution agency, so we've got Armadillo Man, Jim Franklin, which is a story of a gay, queer poster artist in the 70s in Austin, Texas, who created the posters for the biggest concerts in Texas. Frank Zappa, Bruce Springsteen, Charlie Daniels, AC/DC, Talking Heads, and he was kind of ignored through his whole life, so we wanted to celebrate what he did. So he was the artist for the Armadillo World Headquarters. We created a 30-minute doc. It premieres on PBS on June 1st. And then we've got Blind AF, about this amazing human, Sean, who was in the Army, and she went blind after getting an accident. She wanted to be the first human to cycle across America, solo, on a bicycle, blind. And so we took her across America with a film crew, and that's going to, we just won the Sedona Film Festival, Best of Fest, and that's going to premiere in VOD in September.
And I will close out by saying that I'm going to be going into pre-production in the summertime to shoot a short based on a book I wrote that is going to be a a musical comedy on cancer. Can't wait, it's going to be hilarious. And then after that, I'm going to be shooting a vertical series called Corporation, which is based on a board game that my grandfather invented, where you take out your CEO. Not in like the Luigi kind of way. It's strategic. Anyway, so with all that said, thank you all for being up here and playing with us this evening. We still have a much shorter block of films coming. I think there's only 4 in this section. They're all very short. So please go back to your seats, stretch your legs if you need to while we take these chairs away, and we'll be starting block 2 in just a minute. Thank you guys.